you're in the Super Bowl market, if you're in the futures market, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is heavily connected to the Kansas City Chiefs. I am sure it would be Tyreek's first place if he could pick to go back to. At least I would think it would be. And the Chiefs have a need, and the Chiefs are interested, and they're not worried about any of his other question marks.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
51-0, Donnie.
Yeah.
Those numbers don't lie. Georgia, every time they rush for over 200 yards, that's dating back from 2017 against FCS and FBS opponents. They don't lose. The 2 years that they won back-to-back national championships, year one, they rushed for over 208 times. Year two, when they beat TCU, that year they rushed for over 206 times.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Look at the weather, try to look for some anytime touchdowns or maybe some props that you really feel confident about. But it's always the time for urgency, especially for a team like the New York Giants. I think that defense is something that can give Giants fans hope. And then if you get Dart under center, it's hope. And then if you can get Scottaboo out there and the whole building's going boo, it's hope. And as we know, hope works.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Look at me. Look at us. Right here on SportsGrid on GameTime decisions for a Monday night doubleheader in the NFL. Kevin Walsh with you for the next 30 minutes and then an hour. Here's the setup. Here's the situation, okay? We're going to go through it over the next 30. The two Monday night games, what just happened on Sunday, what is going to be coming up in the weeks ahead, which includes Major League Baseball. We're going to get to that, okay? In 30 minutes, go for the two. Mr. Joe Lisi himself joins me here on the decisions desk to follow along with Dolphins Jets. We are live with you up until the start of game number 2, Bengals Broncos, and then your in-game live usuals. The best to do it. It's Gabriel Morency, it's Scott Wetzel, right here on SportsGrid, taking you through the doubleheader, which is absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait, and I am excited, and we are busy, and there's a lot happening. Again, it begins with the Dolphins and the Jets and the Bengals and the Broncos. Two really tricky games here, two very different spreads. Both home favorites, but one team in the Miami Dolphins laying under a field goal, a pair of 0-3 teams in the AFC East. To say they need it is true, but it's not how we usually mean it. When we say a team needs it, it's because they have big expectations, and they are trying to live up to those expectations. Ravens, Chiefs this weekend. These teams' expectations are gone. Their fan base probably has 4 to 5 people who think the playoffs are possible, but everybody is now just looking for silver linings, and Miami is looking for a silver lining that, okay, Tua isn't the worst quarterback contract that's ever been given out. And, Mike McDaniel won't be fired tomorrow. And the Jets are looking for the silver lining of, Aaron Glenn got his first win. And our head coach can actually be known for something beyond a little remix to a dance on a blocked kick that actually still ended up in a loss. So you need it, but not in the way you want to need it. Then you get to the game between Denver and Cincinnati. And Denver's laying a big-time 7.5 because Joe Burrow is out and Jake Browning is a mess. There are 2 quarterbacks who have thrown more interceptions than Jake Browning. The problem is those 2 quarterbacks, Joe Flacco, terrible soon-to-be bench, Geno Smith, yikes for that top 10 crowd, have played 4 games. We got a game and a half, basically, of Jake Browning. For Cincinnati, you're trying to keep your head above water in these non-Burrow weeks, but you must accept there are going to be a lot of those, and Jake Browning cannot continue to be the guy during that run out. But for Denver, more in the, this feels wrong, but listen, Denver is more in the Kansas City-Baltimore bucket of need it than the Jets-Dolphins bucket of needed. A Broncos team that there were plenty out there picking to win an AFC West, sit 1-2 right now and cannot afford an upset here on a Monday night. We've alluded to it. Let's mention it. Chiefs-Ravens. For Kansas City, it's a great confidence boost, but respectfully, it's not about you. The Chiefs scoring 37 isn't a sign that Mahomes is clearly back. It's a sign this Ravens defense is atrocious. The Chiefs 37 is actually the 3rd most points allowed by Baltimore this year. There's only been 4 games. Detroit and Buffalo scored more. The Ravens giving up 37, not being their worst defensive performance, is a sign of how things are. And the injuries are starting to mount, including, and none more important than Lamar Jackson. And if Lamar is out next week, then the Ravens could be 1-4. What about the week after that? 1-5. And the season then will feel over. The books have posted a Ravens-Texans spread for next week, and it says they aren't so sure Lamar will be in that football game. We'll tell you what it is. We'll look through it all here. The movement in the market on this Monday. Of course, you had a number of other big games. Eagles go up to 4-0, as does Buffalo. A tie on Sunday, 40 apiece with Green Bay and Dallas. Caleb gets a big one in Sin City. The Jags upset the Niners. Question marks around Purdy and his availability for a big Thursday night game. We will get there as well. But we now have Major League Baseball postseason action on deck. Tomorrow, it begins before we begin. 1 p.m., Guardians-Tigers. 3 p.m., Cubs-Padres, Eastern Standard Time. At 6, it's in the Bronx with the Yanks and the Sox. Late night, Dodgers-Reds. So what did we just acknowledge through that? Mets out. Reds in. And as I try and, calculate, right, I'm sure for many of you now, okay, where did my baseball futures land? Who do I have? Who did I lose? Who do I feel good about? And there were so many checkpoints, right, in the year. As somebody who bet the Astros to win the American League, how did I feel? Amazing. The best team in the AL. You couldn't tell me, oh, no. Oh, no. It started to become clear that that turnaround wasn't coming, and the Yordan Alvarez injury was the final nail in that coffin. But even more surprising than not getting the Astros ticket to the playoffs is getting this Reds World Series ticket actually into the dance. Now, do I feel great about it? I mean, I'm glad they're in from a price perspective. It's great. They play the Dodgers, so they're considerable dogs. The Dodgers have looked vulnerable, but also if you told me the Reds snuck in, I wouldn't expecting to be playing the team that was priced as World Series favorites all season long. There is one number right now in the Major League Baseball futures market that is standing out to me. Big time. Very, very tempting. We will talk about it before we button up this portion of the night. I will say, for Mets fans, a devastating collapse. You have heard it described as this, like a bleed out almost, and that is exactly what it was, right? They're not playing well. They're not playing well. They're probably fine. Oh, they're not fine. Okay, now they're fine. Oh, they beat the Phillies. Oh, now they're not fine. And it just got worse and worse. And you enter the offseason with uncertainty. They say it is going to be better. We'll see. Pete Alonso has already opted out. You guys know those World Series odds for next year will be out sooner than later. It'll be interesting to see where a team like the Mets land on a list like that. Just quickly, we're up against the break. We'll go through the full Monday night options, but we should acknowledge the postseason action in the W, where half of the WNBA final is set, and that is the Phoenix Mercury, who upset the favorites in the Minnesota Lynx 86-81, but that upset was series long, not game long. Minnesota entered into that final game without their best player, Nafisha Collier, and a suspended head coach in Cheryl Reeves. The Aces could have made that final set and stamped. Instead, they lose to the Fever and will play tomorrow night in a Game 5 winner-take-all trip to go and play the Mercury in the final. Excited to break that all down. We get more into that tomorrow, but it is where things stand. Next, though, who can we trust on this Monday night doubleheader? We'll look for the answer with you after a break on SportsGrid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
You're in the Super Bowl market, if you're in the futures market, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is heavily connected to the Kansas City Chiefs. I am sure it would be Tyreek's first place if he could pick to go back to. At least I would think it would be. And the Chiefs have a need, and the Chiefs are interested, and they're not worried about any of his other question marks.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last
But they
year?
had marquee wins at some point
I don't
last
care. They
year.
lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Look at the weather, try to look for some anytime touchdowns or maybe some props that you really feel confident about. But it's always the time for urgency, especially for a team like the New York Giants. I think that defense is something that can give Giants fans hope. And then if you get Dart under center, it's hope. And then if you can get Scatterboo out there and the whole building's going boo, it's hope. And as we know, hope works.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Live with you right here. It is Game Time Decisions. Let's go piece by piece on this Monday night. We start in South Beach with the Dolphins and the Jets, a pair of 0-3 teams who did not think that this would be really where they were standing at heading into this football game. The odds certainly would have suggested that it wouldn't be both at 0-3, and yet here we are. So what do we do? How do we attack? 2.5-point spread that was very, very tempting to me on the Miami Dolphins. The total checking in this game between 43.5 and 44.5, depending where you look. And the Dolphins were tempting to me, a lot of it to do with the rest that they are on after a Thursday night against Buffalo. The reason I have pulled back on the Dolphins is really twofold. One is Fields is still just a huge question mark for me. The first game against the Steelers, he was brilliant. The second game against the Bills, he couldn't have been worse. He didn't play against Tampa Bay. What we get from Fields tonight, I am unsure of. I don't mind if you alt up his rushing. He may go wild. I don't know if there's any level of pushback from him off the concussion. Does he not run as much? I think these are Fields is such a variable. I don't know if I actually want to bet against him. I think you could see a world tonight where the Dolphins win big. I also think there's a world tonight the Dolphins are able to get to 30, and it's a really close game because the Dolphins' defense is really bad. But I could have, if I really trusted the Dolphins' rest advantage, the home field advantage at 2.5, I could get there. But what pulled me back is the Buffalo game where, if you guys remember on that Thursday night, we were all Dolphined up. It felt like an incredible number on the Fins, and they covered the entire game. I don't know if that team at 0-3 is going to roll over the effort and focus that they had for most of that game. Opening drive touchdown, coming back, all of it was there. It was a great effort, and the Dolphins, they were like, no moral victories. No, like, we have to win games, right? And, for the Dolphins, because the Colts look all right, the Bills, again, they're Super Bowl favorites. And if it wasn't for that Pats game, you're like, they're an acceptable 1-2. But the Pats game, like the Bills game, like the Colts game, are littered with these two decisions where you're like, I don't understand what is happening. I don't understand what you're doing. So I couldn't get there fully on Miami. I do think there are two props that you can play and feel good about because you should have a chance throughout the game. You can chase alts. The number that I like the most in this matchup is Devon Achane in the receiving game. There are 39.5s out there. Achane is one of the most explosive players in the NFL. Last week with 7 receptions, that only turned into 29 yards. That's more of an outlier. Just go to the week prior, where in a game with 8 receptions, he had a long reception of 29 yards. I have no reason to believe that Devon Achane is not going to consistently be involved in this receiving game. His receptions prop is 5.5. With 4 catches, I should be able to get a chance to go through that 39.5. And that's, again, well under the receptions. I'm going to back Devon Achane in the receiving game. I'm going to get another guy involved in the receiving game here for Broncos-Bengals. That's going to be T. Higgins at 47.5. It's my best bet here between the two games. Chris is going to game number 1 with a Breece Hall anytime touchdown. Do not mind that look. Breece inevitably has to find the end zone here. Again, if Fields gets that offense clicking, we could see Hall into the end zone. 2 to throw a pick. It's been consistent. It's what Sam is going to back. And Tyreek Hill over the 64.5 in this spot against the Jets. I thought Tyreek was fantastic against Buffalo, despite the 5 for 49 and a score not being as eye-popping. I thought he was better than that. I thought Tua missed him. I think there's meat on the bone with the Tyreek number. I don't mind that play from AJ, but I think there's real meat on the bone here with T. Higgins over 47.5. How do we get to a number so low for such a talented player? Because Jake Browning is bad. And you might say, well, Kev, it's still going to be Jake Browning. It absolutely is. But Jake Browning isn't going to be as bad as he was last week every week. And Jake Browning goes up against this Broncos defense, as you know, with Pat Surtain, who I think will take the Jamar Chase challenge very happily. And you will see T. Higgins get enough opportunities to get through a very low number for a very good player, a number that Higgins went over with the replacement of Browning in the middle of that game with Burrow. That touchdown that he scored in that game, that came from Jake Browning. So I think there is going to be some meat on the bone here for T. Higgins at 47.5. I think it's on the board. He has a big game. We've seen Denver be a little more vulnerable to that side of the football. Sidewise tonight, I lean Cincinnati. I tend to believe that this Broncos group are very difficult to trust at a number like this. The reason, and again, you guys know, I like taking points. The reason I can't get there is that Cincinnati game against Minnesota was so messy. I don't, at the moment, feel like I have a very good read on Cincy's defense, the Shamar Stewart injury. You guys know I was higher on the Cincy defense entering into this season. Bo Nix is someone who I was lower on entering into this season. I think those results have bared out. If I felt good about the Cincy defense at 7.5, I would say, okay, they can stay, they can hang. I'm a little uncertain in that way tonight. This total checking in 44.5, maybe a lean over. But again, I think this is a game where I'm happy to zone in on T. Higgins. I think, again, an in-game live will have you covered. I think it's a great live game. I think this is a game you're going to know mid to late first quarter. You're going to have an idea. Okay, Browning's got a little something tonight. Bo Nix maybe will have something tonight. Sean Payton would love the opportunity to run it up. We'll see if that opportunity is given to him. A reminder, though, 7 o'clock right here on the desk, we are joined by Joe Lisi for the Dolphins and the Jets. Live coverage all throughout the night here of the Monday night doubleheader on SportsGrid. After the break, though, we have to just take a look at the Major League Baseball playoff bracket. Where is the value? I'll tell you next.
Two favorites are still the two favorites. So for me, it's just whether or not you got Herbert at a better price or if you think there's a better price to get at this point. But I mean, with the way Josh Allen plays and generally Lamar Jackson, it still does appear to be a two-player race. The only thing, obviously, this is an injury league, Adam, and in the NFL, an injury that keeps you out 4 or 5 games, all of a sudden, those odds will shift.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Talk to me. Who are some of the guys? What are the keys for a victory here?
Well, Joe, I mean, we have this one player. I mean, it's like having Tom Brady at quarterback in the Super Bowl. We've got Scotty Scheffler. I think the first key is that, and this is going to sound crazy, but I think we should play him in all 5 matches. I'm just throwing it out there. 15 wins in 2 years. We got to get him out there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for 2, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Everything changed at that point. They went and got Jonquel Jones, and they really had that triple threat monster team. That second year they lost in the WNBA Finals, 3 games to 1 against the Las Vegas Aces. Year 3, they finally get over the top hump. And you can question whether they should have won the title with that foul call late in Game 5 that sent Breanna Stewart to the foul line.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Back with you right here on SportsGrid. Major League Baseball has their postseason bracket out, set, available. And you go through, I imagine all of you have done exactly what I've done, right? I test that bracket. Like, Guardians tired, all right, I don't know. That feels like a Detroit upset. Mariners, all right, maybe Mariners get through, blah, blah, blah. Dodgers, all right, they probably beat the Reds. Phillies, like, you start to go through the whole thing. And then you dive in a little bit more, right? But the one thing that is a guarantee is there will be an AL East team in the ALCS. Guaranteed. Absolutely nothing can happen where that will not be the case. And that is something that is standing out to me. I look at Yankees, Red Sox in the wild card round, and I think the Yankees close the regular season on a heater. There's obviously going to be these questions around Judge and the postseason, and they are warranted until they're not, right? But for the Yankees right now, it's not only Judge. But if Judge can keep the level, my goodness. But on the other side, it's a Boston team that's giving them trouble. It's a Boston team with a clear-cut ace in Garrett Crochet. Guys behind in Lucas Giolito and Brian Bello, who we've seen have really good games. Brian Bello. And Boston feels in the mix, right? And pick your poison here in this rivalry. The winner sees Toronto, and we've seen both give Toronto trouble. We've seen Toronto give the other side trouble. And a Blue Jays team that, you know, similar to the number one seed out in the National League in Milwaukee, it took a while to buy in on. I think the Brewers, I mean, maybe this is just me, the Blue Jays rather, it does feel as if the Blue Jays' firepower has been a bit under-discussed throughout the year, right? 4 best scoring teams in baseball, Yankees, Dodgers, Brewers, Blue Jays. That's how this team got there. Best run differentials, you know, in baseball for Toronto, it's not as shiny, and maybe that took away a little bit from people understanding how great this offense has been since they've picked it up, but they've absolutely picked it up. And what I know about those 3 teams, right or wrong, I would pick any of them to beat the top half of the bracket. Whether it's the Mariners, the Guardians, or the Tigers, that the bottom is what I'm gonna buy in. Which is why I'm starting to think the bet to make in the MLB futures market is the AL East to win the World Series. I saw this number. I did not play this number yet at plus 300 over on DK. I'm very, listen, we always want to get our boost. There's going to be boost tomorrow, so I'm wondering, those maybe they'll drop at like midnight type of situation, and maybe we can start to apply those and run those numbers up. With the postseason limited market, we want to get bigger juice. They're going to, start to shorten things here, and there seems to be now. Maybe you can find some better numbers to really pump this up, where you can kind of spread it between Toronto, the Yanks, and the Red Sox. But I listen, not at DK. Like, the value is straight better on taking the group of them than the individual setup, if you will, from an implied probability standpoint. Here's what I think is really interesting with the AL East. If the Yankees make it, who I think is still, from a booking perspective, the strongest team in the AL, I think the Phillies are the only team who would be booked as favorites over the Yankees. That's what I believe. The Yankees would have home field advantage if they met the Dodgers, so I actually think they would be favored over the Dodgers. The Phillies would be favorites. Maybe I'm ridiculous on Milwaukee. I just don't think I am. I don't think the Brewers will be favored over Philly. I don't think they would be favored over the Dodgers, and I don't think they'd be favored over the Yankees. Yanks, again, have home field over the Cubs, the Padres, anybody else that makes it out. So, right away, that would be some value. And Toronto, then, similarly, would have home field over anyone that's not the Phils or the Brewers. So there's some juice potentially there. Boston would be the biggest dog. Boston would be a dog to everyone other than the Reds, probably, in the World Series, because they don't have home field over anybody other than the Reds. Again, if it's Boston, so be it. But here's the thing: if it's Boston, if the Red Sox play the Phillies, they're not going to be plus 300 to win the World Series. So, if I'm right in that the AL East is going to make it out of the AL, then there's some value on that number at plus 300. We bring in Go for the Two, Mr. Joe Lisi, next right here on SportsGrid.